Happy Thanksgiving, Locked On Women's Basketball fans. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so thankful for you making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. We have a very special Thanksgiving themed episode with a whole lot of Boston sports mixed in. Locked On Women's Basketball starts right now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
To give some love to our Locked On Network, make sure you check out the Locked On Team newsletter. It's coming out every day, just like our podcast comes out every day. And I also want to give some love to FanDuel. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, guys, for this very special Thanksgiving episode, I'm joined by Noa Dalzell. She is a senior WNBA writer at SB Nation. She's the go-to Celtics reporter too, so make sure you check her out. And she also has a podcast, You Got Boston podcast. She hosts it Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And Sunday, I think you go live, right, Noah?
Yes.
Okay, Noah, thank you so much for coming on Locked On yet again.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Love to be here and excited to talk.
I'm so excited to have you. So I'm going to be 100% real. We have had many New York themed episodes. I haven't yet had a Boston themed episode. So what would you say right now is kind of like the feel of the Boston sports fan right now? Because you're at a lot of Celtics games.
Yeah, you brought the right person on for Boston basketball conversation. So yeah, I think just the Celtics obviously won the championship last year, and the city has been super excited about that. I honestly feel like it's been a kind of a championship high for months now, since June. Probably similar to what you probably feel with the Liberty fan base too, where it just kind of seems to, there's always like the next thing. There's the championship parade, then there's banner night. I was just in DC last week, there was the White House visit. So it just, a lot comes with it. But I felt like when the Connecticut Sun were in Boston, they were talking a lot about it too. They were like, we're trying to pick up the championship glow. We're trying to pick it up, from being in TD Garden and just following in the footsteps of the Celtics. Obviously, Connecticut didn't get it done this year, but I do think there's a lot of buzz and excitement right now about basketball, just because there's a lot of winning. And this is a big basketball city in general, but when they're winning and a lot of other Boston sports teams are not quite as good right now, it's like really the standout one. So all eyes are on basketball, I think, in the city right now, which is good for me as somebody who really doesn't follow the other sports. So
I don't think you need to. This is Locked On Women's Basketball. Like, these are all basketball listeners too. So I'm right there with you. I will say, to kind of plug a different Boston sport, this is how they described kind of like the Boston fan base. So Boss and WSL, look into it, guys. Hilarious past couple months with their rollout. They're the 15th team for the NWSL season for 2026. This is what they put on their website about Boston. Where sarcasm is a native language, a $3.48 cup of coffee is the food of choice, and where a legion of professional sports teams connect us as one, and no one rests until championship banners are raised. So I just want to hear more, like, what you think about that vibe in TD Garden after another banner has been raised. Is there kind of like would you say like a cockiness that it's going to happen again?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Celtics, there's a lot of confidence right now in the city that they're going to repeat. I'll be honest, like, I think they're going to repeat. I think it's by a lot of different measures, this is a really kind of historical team. Last year they were, at least, and there's no reason I think they won't do it again. But just growing up in Boston and just following Boston sports, there is an air of like anything below a championship is a failure, and players have talked about it. I think teams that are relocating here have to immediately be confronted with it. Probably the best anecdote that I can think of is on opening night, when the Celtics raised the banner last month. They had made 29 three-pointers, and the NBA record for most three-pointers in a game is 30. And they missed like every single three-pointer in the last 5 minutes. The crowd started booing at one point because they wanted them to break the record. And so and they were up by 30 at this point too. So they were beating the Knicks by 30. And afterwards, some of the players were saying, like, only in Boston can you be up by 30 on banner night. Like, you literally just won a championship. You're playing against another team. You're blowing them out opening night. And still the fans are mad. It's like there's just a level of, I don't know what you want to say, it's excellence, because a little bit of arrogance. But the bar is super high, and I think the fans are really passionate, and that comes with good things, and that sometimes it comes with, I'm glad I'm not a player in Boston because I can't imagine the pressure and expectations that come with it.
I would say that trickles down to, or maybe it's perpetuated by the UConn women's hoops too, just to bring it back to like the women's conversation, where like you see Gino go for the all-time wins record. They get it. And at the same time, UConn, like they're kind of on a championship or bust year, even though they're forever proved themselves as a successful team. Do you at all see any like UConn women's fandom? Growing up in Connecticut, it definitely existed. So I'm just wondering if it is also expanded out to Boston.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the UConn exceptionalism is kind of a similar thing. And also just, you know, how if you're a lifetime UConn fan, like you had enough championships, you have to be happy for the rest of your life, but that's not how you feel because you almost get so used to it that I feel like psychologically all that winning makes people greedier, you know? And I think the same thing is in Boston where it's like everybody wants Paige to win one because all the other UConn greats have won one. That was kind of the same measuring stick in Boston with like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It's like if they were going to be real Celtics greats, like they have to win at least one, and honestly probably more than one. So that's the culture here. I think it's a lot of fun. Like I was just in an event in Dorchester with a player who's really been out of the rotation completely, and he walked into the YMCA and the kids treated him like he was the MVP of the NBA. And so there's just a level of like passion and dedication. And I know we're going to get to it, but it's why I would love to see a women's basketball team in Boston, because I think that there's just so much energy and there's so much enthusiasm for the sport and just for sports in general. And again, I've lived here my whole life, so I'm biased, but from what I've seen, there are very few cities that rival Boston in that sense.
Let's get into it then. Boston as 16th, 17th team in the WNBA when the time comes to it. How much did the Connecticut Sun sold out crowd, TD Garden, Celtics players in attendance, crowds going wild? How much do you think that got the seed planted for a possible Boston WNBA team?
I think it got the seed planted for people who aren't decision makers like myself. Like I've been thinking about it a lot. I think a lot of people like in the city, I've talked to a lot of Celtics fans who are like, hey, I'm ready for this WNBA team. When's it coming? Is it next year? And I'm like, it's actually not even really one of the cities that's in contention. And I've been following the expansion bids quite closely, and there's a lot of serious bids right now. It's going to be super competitive for that 16 spot. And unfortunately, I don't think Boston's even really in the mix. So we'll see. Obviously, anything can change and new teams are popping up all the time. But there's been credible reports and actual bids in a number of places, Cleveland being the most recent one. You know, there's been a bunch we can talk more about. But from what I understand right now, you know, Connecticut Sun are owned by the Mohican Tribe. They don't have any interest in moving to Boston in a real way. And so the question is, like, is the city going to have one when there's also one in Connecticut that's part of the same sports market? NBC Sports Boston, which broadcasts the Celtics games, they broadcast the Connecticut Sun games, you know? And so it just, I don't see it happening in the short term. But that game was electric. That was one of my favorite memories ever at TD Garden. And I've had lots of great memories in that building. The fans were 100% into it. And I think the players felt like just so rejuvenated by being there and being able to play in front of a sold out crowd. And it was against the Sparks, you know, it wasn't against like a playoff rival. It didn't have a ton of high profile stars, relatively speaking. And so even so, like you could not have asked for a better turnout and a better just atmosphere around the event. And I think it got the ball rolling, at least for people to think about, like, is this feasible? Could this happen? Even if right now there's not a bid that's in the works the way that there are in some other major cities.
I love you talking about the atmosphere, because this in the last couple minutes, it's coming down. The Sun are down to the Sparks, one of the worst teams in the WNBA, by 5 points with a couple minutes to go. In that moment, are you looking around and you're like, okay, these are just some regular Boston fans who came in to watch some basketball, some diehard Connecticut Sun fans. Are they going to leave here disappointed? And like, would this taint the idea of women's basketball in Boston, or was it not that deep?
So I don't think the average person there was very clued into the WNBA. And so I don't know that people realized that the Sparks had no business being up 5 against the Sun with 5 minutes to go. So I was sitting there being like, I thought, I was sure the Sun were going to, you know, I don't want to say blow them out, but like I wasn't concerned about them losing this game. They took care of business most of last year. And so I was thinking, like, honestly, for the players' sake, like, you want this to be a really special memory, and like playing in front of the TD Garden crowd. If you lose it, it taints it. It just inevitably does. They're all competitors. They're a very competitive team. And so yeah, I don't know that the fans would have been like distraught leaving, because again, I think a lot of them were like getting, becoming fans. And so it was a different thing, but they kind of fell in love with this team throughout the game. And by the end, it was as loud as the building gets. And again, I just covered a championship run there like 2 months before that. So when I say that, like a lot of people were making fun of me when I said that online. They were like, sure it was, like, try to stop pushing the WNBA. And I was like, no, I'm like, I actually was here a month ago and I'm here now. And I'm telling you, this is as loud as this building has gotten. And part of it is just because like the playoff crowds are usually really expensive tickets. And so it's not like real basketball fans. It's a lot of like corporate crowds. It's a lot of like people that can afford to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on tickets. This building, like this Sun game, was just like basketball fans, and you could feel it in the way that they were engaged. And afterwards, the players were gushing about the experience. And Dejanay Carrington was like, this is what we should get every single night. And she's since tweeted a couple times. I think she would love to see the Sun in Boston. I don't think that's a secret. She's made that clear on a number of occasions. And so it got the ball rolling. And I think people since then have been more locked in. Like I've covered the Sun. I covered the Sun for the Next before I was doing the league at large. And I definitely felt like all of a sudden the things that I was writing about the Sun, people cared about that were Celtics fans, because they had that introduction. Even people that weren't there, they heard about the game. They knew somebody that was there. They saw it on TV. So there was a lot of momentum generated by that.
Oh, I love that. And we're going to talk more about how like a big name attached to the Celtics could possibly help St. Louis's bid for a WNBA team. And then we're going to do a Thanksgiving segment that you guys could actually play along with. So stick around, more after this. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Okay, Noah. So I've never met Jayson Tatum. What you gonna say now, Jayson Tatum? You've been in rooms with him. Now, a couple months ago, news comes out that Jayson Tatum, a St. Louis native, after he brought the Celtics trophy to St. Louis and kind of like celebrated with his hometown, that he might get in on a WNBA bid for the 16th team in WNBA expansion, along with some other teams up for grabs. Were you surprised when you heard about this? And from what you've got to know about Jayson Tatum, is this something that you could see him following through with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was surprised just because I hadn't heard anything about it. But that's sometimes the nature of covering NBA teams, is like you'll be around the team every single day, and then somebody who is not anywhere near the team will break some major news, and you're like, I'd never even heard about this. But it doesn't surprise me, because he's really, he has a great team around him as far as being involved in all sorts of entrepreneurial pursuits. I'm not surprised that he looked at the growth of women's basketball, and it's something that I know he's expressed interest in before, and thought to himself like, hey, maybe I want to get in on this. He's gotten in on so many different businesses. He's the face of Coach. He has his own sneaker line. He even happen to have this right here. He has a picture book. So he has like so many different things that he's involved with. So he's not like a random, I know some superstars like maybe have one thing that they do and they play basketball. Like he has like a whole robust operation that he kind of is involved with. And so it didn't surprise me on that front. And then also St. Louis is like something that we all know he's very passionate about. He talks about it all the time. He wants to go home and better his community. He does like foundation events and golf tournaments and all sorts of things when he's back there. And a lot of Celtics fans have like an ongoing joke about if there was ever an NBA team in St. Louis, and like he would leave Boston, and that's like a big concern for people. And so everybody kind of freaks out about that, because everybody knows how much he loves St. Louis, and he's always posting about it and going there and whatever. So it didn't surprise me in that sense. That being said, I didn't think St. Louis was really one of the more viable cities in contention. I mean, I know we're all wondering who's going to be number 16, and it feels like there's so many cities that would benefit. But yeah, there was a report, I think it was last month, that he was involved, and there was a number of other investors who were interested in this bid, and I'm not sure exactly how much he'd be putting up and who the other investors would be. I asked him about it. He said it's not something that he can talk about yet, but it's something that he looks forward to talking about soon. And so hopefully that day comes. And it's actually funny, I don't think he's the only NBA player. I think there's a lot of guys that are looking at their cities, their hometowns, and thinking like, this could be a way for me to have a much bigger imprint on my basketball legacy. A lot of them have been excited about the WNBA for a long time anyways. Grant Williams is another. I was actually in Charlotte, and he was talking about how he wants to see a team in Charlotte, where he's from and where he's playing now for the Hornets. So I think there's a lot of momentum, but certainly Tatum, someone of his stature, with his financial backing I'm sure would be a massive kind of incentive and a massive play here.
And he's got a couple more years left of that $315 million to keep him in Boston. So hopefully Boston fans aren't too worried. He'll be there till 2029 at the latest. Well, locked in. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. So I'm just so curious too what you think about the idea of St. Louis as a WNBA expansion option, just because the arena that they would play in hypothetically is limited to 10,300 fans, with the average WNBA attendance this year being just a little bit less than 10,000. So do you think that in the trajectory we've seen the WNBA grow and how there's so much buzz around this new Golden State team and how they're really working towards better facilities, especially part of the new CBA agreement? Long question, basically just to say, although St. Louis would be a great option to expand into that Midwest fan base, do you think that the possibility of being limited by facilities would kind of make the league say no to St. Louis and instead go for a city like Cleveland or Philadelphia?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I've been thinking a lot about expansion because I've been like kind of covering, every time there's a new update, I'm always kind of digging into it. On one hand, yes, I think the future is that WNBA teams are going to be able to sell out NBA arenas. On the other hand, NBA arenas don't sell out a lot of times, and MLB, stadiums. And I think you look at professional sports teams, and especially when they're not winning, like it's empty everywhere. And so the one advantage you have, I think, if you're looking at a smaller arena, is that you can fill it up and you can create a really meaningful atmosphere. And I think the Aces have really captured that. The Aces to this day are one of the best basketball environments that I've ever been to. And I haven't even covered an Aces playoff game. I was just covered a regular season game versus the Sky. And it was just completely sold out, electric. Tickets were expensive. Like get-in prices were like nearly $100. And so like from a business standpoint, like that's, yes, the capacity is not the same, but if you can create a culture where it's the place to be and it's the thing to do, which with St. Louis, there wouldn't be the competition of an NBA team. I think there's also an advantage there versus being like the sister team of an NBA team. Obviously, there's a clear, like you can kind of inherit that fan base. But sometimes being the thing in town can also be its own advantage. I don't know what the situation would be like with like practice facilities, if they build their own practice. I'd imagine that they would, that seems to be a priority of the league, is that all the new expansion teams have their own facilities. But I think provided that they were able to do that, I don't know that I view like a 10K seating capacity limit being like a eliminating constraint. That being said, you might have like a bunch of really good bids and they all have 20K seat arenas, and that could help be a distinguishing factor. But just that alone, I don't know that would is enough of a concern, because I actually kind of like the idea of sometimes having a smaller arena that you can sell out and just have a great environment and rowdy environment too.
Yeah, there's something unique to WNBA environment. We're going to talk in our final segment, more Thanksgiving themed. And guys, I want you to play along, and I'm just going to plant the seed now before we go into the ad. Think about what basketball players you would want at your Thanksgiving table if you could have, let's say, 8 basketball players. Think about that now, and let's get through this ad read. All right, holiday shopping, guys. It's tough. I know I need some help with it sometimes too, and you might struggle with finding the perfect gift during the holidays. Maybe gift giving isn't really your love language. You overthink it and wind up getting something disappointing or actually nothing at all, like my brother. If you're buying for someone where they might just seem like they have everything and they might be kind of like unpleasable, I might have a solution for you. We've got the perfect gift. Skylight Frame is a touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family would love. just picture it. Picture all those photos going out and about, but it's just out in the open. That's beautiful. You could upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. First of all, it's very easy to use. The setup takes less than 60 seconds, so kind of no excuses there. You can also add photos straight from your phone from anywhere. You only have to tap on your phone to send new photos to a frame across the country. It's the fastest, easiest way to keep loved ones in the loop. They'll feel so much more connected from you. And you can also choose from 2 different sizes, the original 10-inch or the larger 15-inch gallery frame. They look perfect in any room, so they can stand on their own, or you can easily mount them to a wall. And now, as a special limited time offer for listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's skylightframe.com/NBA. Get $20 off your first purchase now at skylightframe.com/NBA. Okay, all right. So we got that done. Hopefully everybody thought about what players they would want at their table. So no, I'm going to throw it to you first. 8 players, basketball players, and I told you before, it could be living, dead, male, female, it could be whatever. Just 8 players. Who are you having at your Thanksgiving table in this hypothetical?
Okay, let me think about this. I didn't pre-select them.
Ooh, that's okay.
But I think I know.
Okay. I'll count them out for you.
Okay. I'm going to go Maya Moore, Bill Russell. This is really out of order and really not generational. I'm going to go between like not alive people and people that are currently living. So Maya Moore, Bill Russell, Diana Taurasi. I feel like she just would bring just a fun vibe. Isaiah Thomas. Young Isaiah Thomas, because he's my favorite all-time Celtic. Okay, that's 4. I need 4 more, right?
4 more.
This is tough. I knew about the prompt too. I was just thinking that'll be easy to improvise. No, it's not. It's not easy to improvise.
So if you really think, you're like, wait, no, maybe this person doesn't even bring anything. Maybe this person just quiet the whole time. Yeah, you got 4 though.
I almost want to say Paige Beckers. Like,
with that,
this is really a motley crew. I'm just thinking people that I haven't covered are more appealing, and I've never covered her. Because anybody that I've covered, I've already had the chance to chat with them. I've never interviewed her before, so she'll be 5. Kevin Garnett.
Ooh,
this group is gonna have nothing in common. That's 6.
Great stories, though.
I know. Intergenerational. Steph Curry.
Yeah.
I need 1 more.
1 more.
This feels like a make or break for me.
Yeah, you need a glue piece on your table like now. While Noah thinks, guys, I want you to just hit me up on Twitter. Let me know who your top 8 would be for your Thanksgiving table. I'm very curious to see how everybody goes about this, because some people you just want to talk to, I would say.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Dawn Staley. Because I think I just think like she kind of fits, she fits the vibe. I think she'll kind of bring everybody together. Yeah, I'm going to go with Dawn Staley.
Okay. I love that.
That's my 8. Locking it in.
I'll write those out, blast them out to people. I think that actually would be a fire table. I would love to come through if you'll have me. My 8, I wanted to go for ultimate like laughs, drama. So I actually started Natasha Cloud.
Okay,
and
that's a good one.
I wanted to go Diana Taurasi as well because I thought she would supply so much fun, but I'm skipping out on her. I'm going for a sneak pick, Brianna Stewart, because she's low-key so funny. For the men's side, I'm going Channing Frye. He's one of my favorite NBA personalities, even though he doesn't play anymore. Then I'm going to go Sydney Colson. I can't not.
Oh, that's such an obvious pick.
Sydney Colson,
Great pick.
I have to have her at my table. And then, you know what? Actually, I'll put Diana Taurasi. I'm taking out LeBron James, and I'm putting Diana Taurasi in. I'm putting Asia Wilson, and then I'm also going to put Arike. And then my final one will be Allen Iverson. I got to put him. So That's what I'm going
That's
with.
good. That's good. You know, so I was thinking more like, you know, they say like that you could meet with anybody dead or alive. I was like, who do I want to like pick their brain for a minute? But since they're all going to be together, I should have thought more about like inner place dynamics. Someone like Asia Wilson is just a good vibe as a person. So I like your list here.
Great vibe. And, you know, like, not to put it on her, but I have a lot of players who got paid well. So they probably bring some good side dishes. My last question, just to rope it in, looking ahead and looking to the present right now, college basketball is happening. Unrivaled's coming up. WNBA season, we just finished. If it's a Thanksgiving meal, in your perspective, what's like the appetizer, the entree, and the dessert out of those three?
Okay. I'm going to say Unrivaled is the appetizer. And I'm going to say WNBA is the entree. And then college is the dessert.
Guys, this is breaking news journalism.
I know. And the reason is, so I don't like college as much as the pros. And I think that maybe a lot of women's basketball fans have got into the sport more from college. I'm the reverse. Like I got into it more from watching the WNBA, and I'm like going back and learning the college side. And I'm the same way on the NBA side. Like I'm just not a big college fan. So, but I'm obsessed with Unrivaled as a concept. So I'm putting Unrivaled. I'm going to get started with Unrivaled. Obviously, we don't know what that's going to look like yet. Like nobody's ever seen full court 3-on-3 at this level. So we'll see, but I'm super excited about it. And then WNBA, that's the staple. You can't do without it. So, but yeah, Unrivaled is still a little bit of a mystery. I'm intrigued by it.
I can't wait to see more. And we have some Unrivaled episodes coming up. So stay tuned, guys. Noa, where can everybody find your work? I have your Instagram linked here, but I know your podcast coming out 3 days a week. You got Boston, SB Nation for WNBA content. Celtics reporting. Let's plug your work a little bit so people could check it out.
You can find me on Twitter, X, and Blue Sky, just Noa Dalzell. And then all my WNBA coverage is on sbnation.com/WNBA. We just launched like a women's vertical, so we have a lot more women's sports coverage than we used to. So yeah, you can follow along there. But yeah, usually I post everything on Twitter/Blue Sky. So feel free to find me there.
All right, everybody check out Noa's work. Noa, thank you for coming on. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope you get to enjoy it. And happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners. I'm so grateful for you all and so grateful for this platform. It's been a wild time. So happy Thanksgiving. Everybody enjoy it. And if you need some more Locked On coverage, head over to the Locked On newsletter if you want to read instead of listen. But thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Women's Basketball.